know about you, but I have been thinking about Pastor Steve's message all week about that if I really have Jesus as my shepherd, that I won't want for anything. And I also don't know about you, but this last year and a half or so has kind of felt a bit like walking through a valley of the shadow of death, right? Like you're walking through a place that you have never been before and looks dark and long and like you'll never get through. And did a study one time with Tony Evans, and he says that it says specifically in that verse that we walk through. We don't sit and whine in the valley. We don't stop and have a pity party in the valley. In order for us to get to a place where we can enjoy the bounty that God is going to place before us, we actually have to walk through that valley. And it started to make me feel like there's times in our lives when we feel like we've been exiled, right? We feel like we've been pushed into a place that we just don't understand. And I think a lot of that has to do too with the fire and the fact that we've been exiled from our place. And it made me think of this book that I got with Eugene Peterson. It's called Running with Horses, and it's actually about Jeremiah, but it seemed very appropriate for this. It says the essential meaning of exile is that we are where we don't want to be. We are separated from home. We are not permitted to reside in a place where we comprehend and appreciate our surroundings. We are forced to be away from that which is most congenial to us. It's an experience of dislocation. Everything is out of joint. Nothing fits together. The 1,000 details that have been built up through the years that give a sense of at-homeness, gestures, customs, rituals, phrases are all gone. Life is ripped out of the familiar soil of generations of language, habit, weather, storytelling, and rudely and unceremoniously dropped into some unfamiliar spot of earth. The place of exile may boast a higher standard of living. It may be more pleasant in its weather. That doesn't matter. It isn't home. But this very strangeness can open up new reality to us. An accident, a tragedy, a disaster of any kind can force the realization that the world is not predictable, that reality is far more extensive than our habitual perception of it. With the pain and in the midst of alienation, a sense of freedom can occur. And I sat and I thought about that. When we are actually pushed to walk through a valley of the shadow of death, when we are pushed out of our comfort zones and into a place where maybe everything is foreign and we feel like nothing is the same, there actually comes a choice or a moment when we have to choose. Are we going to sit down and whine in the valley? Or are we going to allow our shepherd, who will give us everything that we need, to walk with us? In that same study with Tony Evans, he said that he always thought of grace and mercy as the sheepdogs, right? That grace and mercy are pushing us to stay on the right path with God. That just when we think we can't handle it, God's mercy comes in and says, it's all right, I've covered it. And just when we get ourselves in a bad situation, it's grace comes in and pushes us into the right path and says, I've covered your sins. I have covered your disappointment. I have covered your whining and complaining. And so I just want to encourage you to join us again on Sunday at 9 and 10:30 in the fellowship hall. Things might feel a little uncomfortable because they're not the same. It's not what you're used to. But remember that grace and mercy are pushing us to become more like Jesus. And that humanness that we feel in those moments when we're like, it's not the same, is understood and even acknowledged and even cherished by Jesus, who came down here for us. And he became one of us and gave his life for us so that we would be able to see God and have a relationship with him and be able to walk in grace and mercy for the rest of our lives. So I'm looking forward to this Sunday morning to seeing in Psalm 104 how Jesus Theater can expand our thoughts of who God is and what he has done for us, and help us to continue to walk through a valley of the shadow of death, or to walk into the abundance and bounty that he has for us. So join us this Sunday morning at 9 and 10:30 in the fellowship hall. I look forward to worshiping this great God who showers us with grace and mercy.